You've had one of those days. An email that ruined your morning, a deadline that won't stop looming, a conversation you're still replaying at 11 p.m., even though it happened 8 hours ago. Your shoulders are tense, your stomach's in knots, and somewhere deep down, you know this stress isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Now picture a gazelle. It just sprinted for its life, lungs burning, heart pounding, a lion's jaws missing it by inches. And within minutes, sometimes seconds, it's back to grazing, completely calm, as if nothing happened at all. Same stress hormones. Same fight or flight system. Wildly different outcome. So why does a genuine life or death chase leave an animal fine, while an email leaves you wound up for the rest of the week? The answer says less about animals than it does about us. Let's start with what stress actually is biologically, because the mechanism is identical across species. When any animal, human or otherwise, perceives a threat, the body releases cortisol and adrenaline, triggering a cascade of changes: elevated heart rate, redirected blood flow, heightened alertness, all designed for one purpose: survive the next few minutes. Neuroendocrinologist Robert Sapolsky, who has spent decades studying stress physiology, has pointed out that this system works identically in a gazelle and a human. The chemicals are the same, the wiring is the same, so if the biology is identical, the difference has to be somewhere else entirely. And it's in what happens the moment the actual danger disappears. Now here's the part nobody talks about. Animals are remarkably good at literally shaking stress off, sometimes in the most literal sense possible. Researchers studying wildlife recovery behavior have documented something called discharge. After a high-stress event like a predator chase, many mammals engage in visible full-body tremors or shaking, lasting just a few seconds, that appears to help reset the nervous system back to baseline. Peter Levine, a trauma researcher who studied this behavior extensively, observed that prey animals in the wild almost never show long-term symptoms resembling human anxiety or PTSD, despite regularly facing genuinely life-threatening encounters, and theorized that this physical discharge process is a major reason why, in other words, the gazelle doesn't sit there afterward, thinking about the chase, replaying the lion's approach, wondering if it could have run faster. It shakes, it resets, and it goes back to grazing, because as far as its brain is concerned, the danger is now completely, unambiguously over. That's a huge clue. But it raises an obvious question about us, because humans clearly have this same shake-it-off machinery too. So why doesn't it work the same way? Here's where it gets strange, because the actual difference isn't biological, it's almost entirely psychological. Sapolsky's research, particularly his work comparing human and animal stress responses, points to a specific human trait largely absent in most other species: the ability to activate a full stress response purely through thought, with no physical danger present at all. A zebra's stress system turns on when a lion is actually chasing it, and turns off within minutes once the chase ends. A human stress system can turn on from an email, a memory, an imagined future conversation, or a worry about something that hasn't happened and might never happen. And it can stay activated for hours, days, or in chronic cases, years. This is sometimes described as the difference between acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress, the kind a gazelle experiences, is short, intense, and resolved quickly. Chronic stress, the kind that dominates a huge amount of modern human life, keeps the exact same biological alarm system running continuously, low grade, for far longer than it was ever designed to handle. Your body wasn't built to survive stress that never turns off. Which raises the obvious next question: what actually happens if it doesn't? But wait, surely animals experience something like chronic stress too, especially in captivity or difficult conditions. This is a fair and important exception. Animals absolutely can experience prolonged stress, and it's well documented in specific circumstances. Animals in captivity, particularly in inadequate zoo or lab conditions, frequently display repetitive, anxious behaviors researchers call stereotypies, such as pacing and fixed patterns, something rarely observed in wild populations with adequate space and stimulation. Chronically stressed wild animals also exist, particularly in habitats disrupted by human activity, and researchers have documented measurably elevated, sustained cortisol levels in these populations, along with health consequences similar to those seen in chronically stressed humans. So it's not that animals are biologically immune to chronic stress. It's that their natural environment rarely produces it, while modern human environments produce it constantly, deliberately, and often without any clear resolution in sight. That distinction matters enormously, because it reframes the entire question. This was never really why are animals built differently. It's why did we build a world that keeps the alarm running? And that's really the thread connecting all of this. A gazelle's fear ends when the lion turns away. A zebra's alarm ends the moment the chase is over. A body built for acute danger does not know what to do with a threat that never fully leaves, an email that reopens itself in your mind at midnight, a worry that returns uninvited every single morning, an alarm system standing guard over a danger that isn't actually standing in the room. We didn't inherit a broken stress response. We just gave it a threat it was never designed to recognize as finished. That's the real difference. Not stronger biology, not tougher nervous systems. Just an environment that, for most of the animal kingdom, actually lets the danger end. So what about the exceptions? Because surely stress isn't universally deadly for animals in the wild either. It's not, and even chronic stress in wildlife doesn't guarantee harm the way it often does in humans, largely because wild animals will still typically retain the discharge behaviors. The shaking, the physical release, even under repeated stress, which appears to provide at least partial protection against the same chronic damage humans accumulate. Some research on social animals, including primates, has also found that strong group bonds and physical touch, like grooming behavior in primates, meaningfully buffer cortisol levels during stressful periods, functioning almost like a biological stress relief system built directly into social connection, which is a strangely hopeful detail buried inside all of this. The tools that help physical release, social connection, letting an event actually end aren't uniquely animal. We have them too. Most of us have just stopped using them. So back to you. Replaying that email at 11 p.m., shoulders still tense from a threat that technically ended 8 hours ago. The Giselle isn't calmer than you because its life is easier. Its life, by any measure, is far more dangerous than yours, moment to moment. It's calmer because when the danger passes, its body is allowed to believe it. Yours, more often than not, isn't. We didn't lose the ability to reset. We just started living in a world that rarely tells us we're allowed to.